Hello, I'm Dana Williams, and I'm here with Jacqueline Robinson, and we are so glad to be with you guys today. So Jackie and I got together and we thought, what can we do? There's this space that we want to create for people in the workplace. And so we thought we would kick it off with a Gather and Grow series. This is our first one. Today, we're going to have another one in April. But I'd love to introduce ourselves and then tell you kind of our purpose for today. And then we'll get going. We'll talk for about 30 minutes today. And we'd love for you guys to add comments and just say hello from wherever you are. We'd love to hear from you. So I'm Dana Williams, and I stepped down out of corporate about 4 years ago and have been running my own consulting coaching business and having a ball. And met Jackie about Jackie, was it 2 or 3 years ago? You were on my podcast and we were talking about well-being. And I was like, oh, I like this girl. And so I kind of dreamed of us doing something together. So here we are. So Jackie, love for you to introduce yourself and welcome yourself today.
Yes, I'm so excited that we're doing this together too, because we certainly did bond, and we have this affinity for well-being and supporting
Yes.
people. And similar to you, I left corporate about a year ago, close to a year ago, and am an executive coach and corporate consultant as well. And my background is as a psychologist, so well-being was something that I was just always tethered to and attracted to within the workplace. And so as you said, Dana, this is just a great place for us to help others and help ourselves gather and grow.
And I love that you have that psychology background too. I think that is so powerful right now, and that we're really really passionate about well-being. I cannot think of anything else I've talked about more in the last 4 years other than well-being in the workplace, because it keeps getting to be a need. So we're going to talk about today, how do you navigate change in the workplace? And well-being is, the platform for all of this. We are also going to talk about how do you respond to layoffs and reorgs, and then moving forward with intention and building resilience for yourself through well-being. So I want to talk a little bit about what I've witnessed the last 2 months. Really dear friends, both in corporations and other organizations that have recently just had the culture shift beneath their feet, thought everything was going okay. And all of a sudden, they've had less than 24 hours or less than a week to make a decision about what they're going to do about their career. Both approaches are hard. If there's something that's long and drawn out and you're going to have a layoff, it's really hard. The quick Band-Aid approach is also really hard. Jacqueline, what do you think about that on these approaches? I mean, it is just not fun. In either way, it's not fun.
It is.
Yeah. And what I've learned is I was on a call about a month ago with people that had left a company and people that had stayed, and they were both echoing the same feeling of just sad, scared, frustrated. And you guys feel free to write in the comments kind of if you've been going through something like that, and what it felt like and the impact. And all of a sudden, it's like this challenge of where's my value now, especially if you were with an organization for a long time and you poured your heart and soul into it, and your brand kind of became your title of what you did instead of your unique self wherever you are.
Yes.
Thoughts on that, Jacqueline?
Yeah, it rings so true. And I feel like so many of us on LinkedIn are now seeing so many people talk about this is their second layoff, or this is their third layoff in a couple of years, or this is their layoff. And are there any, job openings? And it's just, it is something that a lot of industries are facing right now in society. And I think you bring up a really good point where so often our value feels like it's tied to our title or to our workplace. And whether you leave of your own, by yourself, you just leave. I can't think of the words I want to use right now. Or if you are laid off, that's still something that you're battling is what is my value? And you're finding yourself again. You're finding your purpose again. So I
Yeah.
really relate.
And that whole community you have at work, and then all of a sudden you've got to find community outside of work
Mhm.
and build that community. So there's a lot around that in the finding the value. Um, so one of the things that I've been working on the last couple of years is understanding Carol Dweck. She wrote a book about mindset, and I call it the Mindset Revolution. Because I was one of those people that I was like, oh, do I have a fixed mindset? And you can get online and go to Carol Dweck mindset evaluation, and you can see where you are if you have a fixed or you have a growth mindset. I find that most people kind of have a little bit of both. Um, they might see themselves more of a growth, but then they see the areas where they have a fixed mindset, and
Mhm.
we don't realize it. But as a psychologist, Jacqueline, I bet you see this just from patterns from childhood or other times when we've learned a behavior or something and we just think that's normal and we stay in that fixed mindset. Is that what you're seeing too, or have seen over your career and looking at working with organizational leaders?
Yes. And so much of our behaviors, until we bring it to self-awareness, are just like a computer system. There's a lot of wiring that's happening behind the scenes in our subconscious that we're not even aware of it. And so that's where, if people do go to therapy, which I always say everyone should have like a therapist, a
Yes.
coach, a spiritual healer, you just need that triad.
Mhm.
That is the work that they're doing, is helping bring so much of that to the subconscious, because you might not even realize that it's fixed, or
Yeah.
things that you thought you fixed and you're now in this growth mindset. There's still habits that are there because you haven't fully addressed the wiring in your brain.
One of the things we both like to talk about a lot is Clifton Strengths. And I
Mhm.
kind of use those as levers myself when I see myself getting into a not a good mindset about growth and thinking
Mhm.
about my strengths that I can use to help me grow, like my futuristic or my ideation. Um, that helps me grow when I see that I get stuck. How about you?
Yes, futuristic. You had me at futuristic. That is
Yes.
by far one of my favorite themes, I think, in my top 10, because I just love seeing the future and thinking about what can be, and partnering with people high in ideation, because
Yeah.
it just helps expand my mindset even more.
Yeah, and I think and that's true. I think one of the things you're gonna hear from us today is who are you putting yourself around? Are you
Mhm.
getting yourself in the proximity of other folks? Both of us have started our own businesses, and so that was a whole different mindset shift, and it was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
who's gonna be my people now?" You know, and
Yes.
how do I do that? And I love the, virtual board of directors. I've put
Yes.
together how to build that because I see that's a huge need for all of us, whether you're in an organization or you're working on your own. That it's one of those things, and you don't have to pay those people. They're just your people that are your good people that you lean on for guidance and wisdom, and that can really speak
Yeah.
truthful to you. I have one of those people. In fact, she created this artwork in the back of um, my wall here, and she just tells me like it is, and I just say thank you. Don't people please me. Tell me what tell me what I need to know, and tell me what I need to do, and help me be that best. And she's that person for me. And I know each of us probably have somebody like that.
Mhm.
It's just being intentional about doing that. And for me, in these times of fixed mindset, it's learning that those challenges really were my opportunities to grow.
Yes. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you,
Oh,
as
I
they
love
say,
that.
which we don't always wanna hear when we're in the middle of the muck.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And so what can we pull from that experience, or what is it teaching us that we can
Yeah.
learn from and build off of? And how can our strengths support us? And to your point, the board of directors that we have, our
Just
mentors, our experts, our accountability partners, the cheer squad, that board of directors is so full of
Mhm.
a variety of different people in our life that can support us.
Yeah, and people that want us to be our best self and our
Mhm.
best authentic self.
Yeah.
And I love the statement, setbacks become feedback, not failure.
Yeah.
We all have a sense that we want both. I think, Jacqueline, you have maximizer, right?
Hmm.
And I have maximizer, right? So we can be seen as picky or maybe perf want to make things just right.
Yes.
And having to let that go and just say, you know what? My feedback is really going to help me. That feedback's really going to help me grow.
Hmm.
Instead of saying that I didn't do something right. I grew up one of those things, so I've got to be a good girl and I got to do everything right. And that really didn't play good for me, right?
Yeah.
The risk until I started my own business and the risk that I had to take, it was like, oh, okay. But it got me up into that growth mindset.
Yes.
How about you as you've been experiencing your own growing your business and being on your own and doing all that? Has it been energizing? Has it been
It's energizing. And then, there's the messy middle. So whether you're laid off or you're starting your own business, I think the
yes.
messy middle is often not talked about. And that can be tough as a maximizer because we do want excellence and we're thinking about return on investment. And sometimes everyone's going to go through the messy middle. And
Mhm.
there's so much learning and growth within that process, whether we like it or not. But to
Absolutely.
your point, that setback in the messy middle can become feedback. And the setback can be
Mhm.
anything. It could be minor, or it could be, just learning along the way.
Yeah,
Whether you're applying for a new position or you're building your company. Um, and hopefully it's not something major, but so many people have also failed in business and then they've become successful in business because that failure taught them so much. So um,
absolutely.
there's so much growth in the messy middle, whether you're an intrapreneur or an entrepreneur or you're looking for a position, a new position.
Yeah. So really just being aware, and I think that was the big aha is the awareness. Oh my gosh, am I in my fixed mindset or am I in a growth
Hmm.
mindset? What strength can help me get into the growth mindset? One of
Hmm.
the things, an exercise a coach had me do years ago, which write down all the moments in my life where I had pivots, where I had something happen, and then go back and say, oh, and I got through that one, and I got through that one. And I had a counselor once say, well, Dana, you've created a new file. You don't have to worry about doing that again because you've already created a new file for that new thing. And that's what we're talking about. That's why that growth
Yes.
is going up, right? So
Yes.
kind of powerful when you look at it that way and start saying, oh my gosh, I can move up. I don't have to be stuck right here.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
I love that. Revisiting adversities. And it's like, oh yeah, I did get through that. I did get
I
through that.
did. And
But
all of them you get through.
it's like
Right?
there's both that you can really learn from. Uh,
Yeah. So let's talk, Jacqueline, about well-being and how that is so foundational for pivoting. And I know
mhm.
you've been doing a lot of work in this area and helped with well-being at work, the book Well-being at Work, and just share from your perspective. If you're that person out there and you're trying to figure out what just happened to me, I don't know what would you say to them and how would you introduce these areas of well-being?
Oof. Well, these 5 pillars are foundational to all of us. I mean, if we look across the world, what is it that we need to feel like we can thrive? These 5 pillars are our needs. And you could say that your emotional well-being and your mental health and your spiritual well-being are threaded across all 5 of these.
Mm,
You probably see them visible in all 5 of these. And that
that's
question often surfaces.
That's a good point because I've had people ask me about where's emotional well-being here, and I like how you said they're threaded through all of them.
Mhm.
Love that. Good
Yes.
point.
Yes. And I would even say to people, if your mental health feels like it is just in a darker place versus a lighter place, I would still suggest, finding that therapist or support first, because until you have that sense of relief with your anxiety or depression or whatever that mental health ailment is, it's really hard to even think about your career or
Mhm,
engaging with other people or the community or managing
mhm.
your finances. So that would be the caveat I would add. But these 5 pillars, the way to think about it is, where do I feel like I'm thriving? If I
Mm,
look at each of these 5 today, how do I feel? Am I thriving? Am I struggling? Am I suffering? if I think about this area a year from now or 5 years from now, do I think it's going to get better or worse? And if
Mm,
you have any of these 5 pillars that you feel are probably going to get worse, or maybe it's going to stay the same and you feel like it's pretty stagnant, that's a good opportunity to dive in and say, what's an action or a couple of actions I can take to make my best better in this area? And so career, another term we would use for that is purpose,
mhm.
because career isn't our only purpose here on the
Right.
planet. But we feel it so closely, especially in the US, because we are such a career driven society. So when you
Mhm,
do have a layoff, or you're starting something new for yourself, or you're transitioning careers, oftentimes you might struggle with, what is my value? Because you felt like it was so closely tied to your career.
mhm,
That's where I think it's also important to think about your hobbies, your interests, things that draw you in the community that you love to
mhm,
volunteer to do. That's probably a sign of other things that you do with ease, excellence, and enjoyment. Social is about connecting with others, friends, family, and coworkers.
mhm.
Research shows about 6 hours of social connection is what we need a day to feel like we can be fully engaged. And
Which
people are always dropping their jaw over that. I have to
it
work, man.
I find myself going, "Okay, that doesn't mean that you when you're texting somebody, it's when you're having human to human contact." Is that correct?
Well, Gen Z might think otherwise. They're like, "Oh,
Yes.
let's text. Let's text."
Yeah.
Thing is just feeling that connection. And this does include coworkers as well.
Mhm.
So we
Yeah.
spend so much time at work. We hope you like who you work with. You're going to
Mhm.
be much more likely to be engaged if you have those trusted confidants. So
Man.
that's social. You might find this if you're a parent. This could be within your child's community, even. You know, you're at sports events and there's those parents that you sit on the bleachers with to watch the game, or you know, you have the neighbors that you connect with, and the kids play in the backyard, and you know, you're having barbecue out there. This is community. So it could be neighborhood, it could be in your parenting community, it could be, you know, as a solo traveler, you're meeting people on your journey. And
Mhm.
then financial is just having the mental energy to manage your money well. And I know this is maybe a struggle for some too, because when you're laid off, you're not expecting it. Not all
Mhm.
the time, unless it's that long-term layoff, and then you have all the anxiety of when is it going to happen, and am I going to get a severance package? So this is sometimes a struggle for people too, when you're in that phase, because you're thinking about balancing your checkbook. You're thinking about, how am I going to pay my bills? What's left in my emergency fund? Do I even have an emergency savings fund? So finances is just feeling confident in your ability to manage your money, but also being able to manage it so that you can cover your basic needs.
It's interesting. One of the research points I remember reading about financial was spending money on experiences.
Hmm.
And I did hear from one of my friends that was recently laid off. The first thing she did was plan an experience to go on a beach trip with a friend for her well being. And
I
I
love it.
that is great. She took that money aside, and I think about that as our family. We don't do a lot of gift giving at the holidays, but we save up and give a trip for our
Oh, I
family.
love that.
And there's just something about creating that memory. So I love that Gallup
Yes.
brought that up.
Yes.
Experiences, spending your money on experiences, but not spending it
Never.
if you don't have it.
Yeah.
Right?
And where could you find the experience for free?
Mhm.
Another
Absolutely.
question. With all the free events that happen locally, where you can just get your mind off of it for a moment. Um, because then that alleviates some of the depression or anxiety or stress you might be feeling, where you can come up with new ideas
Wow,
for the situation that you're in. Yeah.
that's a good point. Because I think about you, and you love concerts, you love
I do.
and that means
I
that,
love
right?
making memories at concerts, but it's not
Yes,
good for the budget.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, you can't go to a concert every single week.
No,
That's not
we gotta budget those. That's right.
That's right. That's right. In physical teams, so this is, you can see in the the write-up we have here, it's energy to get things done. So it's not just in the form of physical fitness, but are you getting enough sleep? Are you able to eat healthy and timely? Because if you're stuck in Zoom doom, you're probably not able to eat, all the time or regularly for that breakfast and lunch, or you're working into your dinner time. And so how are you making sure that you're focusing on your nutritional health as well and getting the right foods in your system, but also in a timely manner? And then community is just, it's feeling safe in your neighborhood. At its most basic, pillar, the community pillar is feeling safe in your neighborhood and within your community. Whenever I think about college students, I think about, the safety you feel on campus, that sense of community you have on campus. For others, it's, this could be just being engaged in your community. You might be a part of your chamber of commerce. And now you're blending community and social well-being because you're doing something that is for the local area, but you also are, networking and building connections.
That's a good point. I had a team last fall. We did a well-being workshop, and they rated themselves as a team low in community. And what they realized is that that's where they got a lot of their energy from, when they could all go and volunteer together and do something together. So that was a big aha for them, to realize that as a team. It could be as a family or as an individual. I have another friend who's recently changed jobs, and when she was without work, she went and volunteered and started at a stew pot kitchen and is very active in that now. She has found another job, but that helped her during that layoff, or during that time.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was my mother always said that to me. She said, "Whenever you're down, just go serve. Just go serve
Yes.
somewhere in your neighborhood, in your community." Whatever. And it's so true, to go
Mhm.
help some, you think you're helping somebody else, but you're really helping yourself.
Yes.
So I love that. So what would you recommend right now for folks that are in transition and they're trying to pivot and pivot with purpose, and they look at these areas of well-being?
It's interesting because I might naturally gravitate towards career and purpose if you are transitioning in a career or now you're into your second career. But sometimes whenever you have that gap and you start to think about what is most needed at the moment, what's going to make me feel most alive and like I can thrive, some might say, well, this might be a good opportunity to get my physical well-being back. I've just been so anxious with everything happening within the workplace, or this layoff was so long and drawn out. I'm just going to spend 2 weeks or a month just focusing on my health. And so maybe it's the physical well-being that is driving a lot of people while they're applying to, other positions in the workplace. So what I would suggest, team, is as you're looking at these five, what feels most important to you at this stage? Where do you think you have the most opportunity to optimize your well-being? And then think about the first thing you can do. So if it is career and purpose, what is it that you do with ease, excellence, and enjoyment? What did you love about your last position? What was drudgery? What is developmental for you? It's an area where you want to continue to learn and grow because there's some interest. And I think if you start looking at your desire zone, Michael Hyatt has this thing he calls the desire zone. That's the ease, excellence, and enjoyment place. Drudgery are those things that you just don't want to do. You dreaded doing it at work. Now you're not at that job. What do you not want to take with you into your next position? And then developmental, as I mentioned, is there's opportunities for learning and growth where you want to feed your curiosity. There might be something there that you're drawn to. And then disinterest, the disinterest zone is, you could take it or leave it. You might be talented at it. You can see your strengths show up there, but it's not putting fire behind you. It's just like, yeah, I do it. I do it well. It's not the most enjoyable thing. Maybe that's your take it or leave it as you think about the workplace, where it could be a responsibility you have and you go, yeah, I don't mind doing that if that's something I need to do if I get this job, but Is it 10% of the time or 90% of my time?
Mm.
Hopefully that 80 to 90% is going to be in your desire zone. So you might look at those 4 categories first with career and purpose, and just have your list before you even apply to positions, so
Mm.
that you are being much more intentional about what you're working towards. Um, and you can also ask them, how much time will I be spending, in each of these areas, so that you kind of know before you even get into it.
Mm.
And I'll pause just to see what you think about that too, Dana.
Yeah, I think that's key. I think also not trying to do all of these, but finding
Mhm.
one of these that you wanna spend energy on. I like how you focus on the career, especially, or purpose.
Mhm.
I like to talk about that. There's been times in my life, and you can probably think of these times where maybe you're ready for the next thing at work, but you just didn't know what it was. And so
Yes.
I started working on other projects outside of work that fed my purpose, and really spent time designing what is my mission statement. It doesn't matter what company I work at. I'm going to bring that brand with me. And I think that's one of the other things I want to talk about today is making sure people realize they are the brand, the
Mhm.
company. They're not the brand of the company. It's nice if they work with a great company, but you're going to be to your point, Jacqueline, you're going to be thinking, if you're out there looking for a position right now, you're going to find hopefully a company that matches what your passions and your mission is, if you know
Mhm.
your mission. And that's what's always exciting too, because then when you see that alignment, then there's a lot of movement. But it doesn't matter where you go in your career, that brand should stay with you.
Well said. Well said. And you feel it connected to all of these other elements as well.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, more specifically, even community and social, because if you know what your brand is and you know what your mission in life is, it's
Mhm.
much easier to lead with intention when you're out and about in your community, looking for opportunities to either network within a career, or get involved, or who you socialize with. Are they in alignment with your value system and your mission in life, whether it's friends, family, or the workplace?
Absolutely. And I think I tell people that now all the time. Don't wait to leave your company and then start building your LinkedIn presence.
Uh-huh.
Start doing it where you are, whatever you're doing, and establish your thought leadership and your expertise, because it'll help you within your company, but
Mhm.
also if you ever decide to leave or have an opportunity to leave or get into a situation right now where you're find yourself looking. So
Yes.
that's a good point too.
Yes. Yes.
Any
Um,
other thoughts on well-being as we kind of get ready to round out, and how they apply, how to apply your strengths? I mean, I think that's another
mhm.
thought as well.
And I'm so glad you brought up strengths and well-being too, because um, whenever people are using their strengths or we start talking about it, I always want to clue them into the well-being piece too. To
Mhm,
say, if you feel like your well-being is thriving, you're likely using your strengths in a way that feels very conducive to you and or the people around you. So think about what it is that you're doing.
mm,
Think about your day, journal it for 30 days so you can see, what are you doing within the course of that
mhm,
month. Scale of 1 to 5. 5 is, this was a great day. These are my feelings towards it. You can really start to capture what it is that's giving you energy, and you can see where your talent themes connect with that. But if your well-being tank is just, it's done. You're on fumes. You're either overusing your themes or you're underusing them.
mm,
So that's a good gut check to say, what do I need to change? Where am I feeling like I'm just struggling or suffering day in and day out? Is it in all 5 of these areas? Is it in one of these areas? And once you can pinpoint it, then you can really look at your talents to say, am I using them, or how are they showing up?
yeah, I think that's a good point. I think physical for me was an area I was really lacking in. And it's
Mhm.
interesting because when we talked about emotional, I realized there was some emotional things I was holding, but they were being held in my physical. You know that they say the body
Mhm.
keeps the score, and I was
Yes.
like, "Oh my gosh, I've got to deal with what's going on in my mindset." That's why I love the growth mindset, and then looking at this whole well-being and figuring out where in these 5 am I holding some emotion, And it was around in that physical and being able to really kind of capture, oh, how much water am I drinking? Am I walking every day? What's my
Yes.
workout schedule look like? How am I eating? What's my digestion look like? Am I sleep? That's all that physical. So I've been zeroing in on that one the last couple of weeks because I've been working a lot. And I noticed
Mhm.
when I'm working a lot, I'm not focusing on that physical.
I'm glad
So,
you brought that up. You know, I did the same. I did the same. I really wanted to focus on my health over this past year. And I just feel so much more energized. And during that process of focusing on physical, it was to your point, there was that growth mindset, I think, that was happening because I was just unlocking so
mhm,
much in my body, whether it was anxiety or stress or whatever it was. But that it unlocked my mindset in terms of new ideas and new ways that I wanted to come through with the career piece. And
love it.
so, yeah, I think going back to even if you are transitioning because of a layoff or this is going to be your second or third career, that might not be the pillar that is your primary focus right now. There's a
Mm.
different pillar of well-being that is more foundational that will actually support you in that other area.
Good point. Good point. I know we're wanting to keep this short today. So I'm going to just kind of go through some key takeaways and we're going to kind of talk about these. And we'd love for you guys to add questions, to add comments, but just remember your worth is not defined by any single company. It's really your unique self. When we talk about Clifton Strengths is a great tool to use to help you as a tool to see, who am I and what is my calling in the world and how can I go out there and serve? And that all goes to going back to your growth mindset and where am I today? Am I in a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? So how do I pivot if I'm in a fixed mindset? And it's getting myself into that growth mindset, using that board of directors around you, great friends and community that really help you. And as Jacqueline shared, just well-being, how important it is and foundational for professional resilience. And then just know, as we talked about, every time I've had a setback, I want to look at it as an opportunity for growth instead, an opportunity for feedback. And then just small, consistent actions, not trying to do everything at once like we all think we have to. Pick one area of well being. Thoughts, Jacqueline, as we kind of round out and get these key takeaways, anything that's coming up for you that you want to make sure our audience thinks about?
Yeah, I will reiterate the small, consistent action, creating meaningful change. So,
Mm,
really thinking about what's the one area of well being that I could really gravitate towards and that I need to drill down on. If you've taken your Clifton Strengths assessment, how can my talent theme support me? What's the one action I can take so that I can start to create that habit? Um, and then, when in doubt, when you just feel like you're in the messy middle, I would really suggest that you take note of what you're doing day to day and what's giving you energy and what isn't. And also just allowing yourself the opportunity to kind of sit within that messy middle.
mhm.
Um, because it's a process
Yeah.
and you so closely tied your value potentially to the position you just came from or the organization you just came from. And it's not something that just overnight you come out of and go, okay, I know what my value is now. It's a learning process. And so, I would suggest riding the waves. I'll use the
Like
therapy term, ride the waves
little
and just
surfer.
make note of what's going on and focus on your well-being.
That's so wise counsel. So we would love to hear from you guys. Feel free to leave a comment in this LinkedIn Live today. You can drop comments and questions for us. We'll be checking that. We want to hear your pivot experiences because that could help somebody else. And then even a strategy that we didn't mention today that would help you. Um, Thank you, Tyrone, saying your brand should stay with you. It's easy to get wrapped up into being losing yourself and your worth when things aren't going your way and you
Yes.
want them. Oh, that's so true, Tyrone. Thank you for sharing that. And I think, and Jacqueline, you have probably so much experience with this as a psychologist, but sometimes those thoughts we have in our head aren't right. And it's just
Mhm.
reframing those thoughts and using
Yes,
these tools to help you because we walk around with a story in our head that's not true half the
it
time.
is.
right?
Yes. And
So,
I feel like it's not talked about enough too, of just how much we tend to identify our value with a company.
mm,
Or yeah, and so even to your point earlier, and Tyrone reiterating it, the brand stays with you. You are
yeah,
your own person. Your value is who you are inherently as a person. But that board of directors is so helpful too, isn't it, Dana, in getting out of your head and having other people either in a similar situation or that know you to help counteract those thoughts that you have in your head.
exactly. So whether you're a vice president, which is transitioning to your own business, or you've just gotten laid off, or you're in an entry level position and you're trying to figure out your next move, or you're within a company and you love where you are, but you want to just continue to work on upskilling yourself, I think all of this would apply.
Mhm.
We would just love to hear from you, and we want you to know that we're going to be here for you at the last Monday of every month. So we'll be here on April 28th at 12 noon Central Standard Time. We would also love to hear any thoughts on if you guys want to go deeper into well-being, or there's other topics that you'd love to hear. We'd love to hear from you.
Mhm.
Any last minute sign off thoughts, Jacqueline?
Ah, I would just, my heart goes out to a lot of people that are in that transition right now because we're just seeing it left and right on LinkedIn and with
Mhm.
the people that we talk to offline on offline off LinkedIn.
Yeah,
But
this, yeah.
we are here absolutely, and I hope you focus on your well-being first and foremost, and how your innate talents can support you and others, and really drill down on what are your values and what is that key mission and purpose that is a focal point for you. Because
Yeah.
that will certainly be your guiding light as you move through your transition.
And we just can't thank you guys enough for being here. I see another comment. Thank you, Kaylee. Just really helping you. She's excited about going and serving others right now from this talk
Mhm.
today. So there's so many volunteer opportunities. And there's another gal that I have had on the podcast, and she's here locally in Dallas, and she reinvented herself by serving as a volunteer capacity and helping with a particular need they had. And now she is huge in the IT area as a coach and a consultant because she used that area, and she's teaching women and men in Dallas how to do LinkedIn Lives. And she just trained herself while she was volunteering and working in an organization. So that's another great story. Her name's Fanny, and a great story of somebody that's really, she was like an engineer. Found that she loved doing
Right.
social, learned how to do social, and then from her volunteer work created this whole opportunity. So the world is really big and there's a lot of opportunities. We're here for you guys, and we want you to know that. Please reach out to us on LinkedIn. Um, and we'd love to hear more from you. And please sign up for being with us next month on the 28th. Thank you, Jacqueline. So fun to be with you today.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. And thank you all. We are so glad you're here.